Why, hello, it's Jeremy. No, wait, let me pull up an email. It's not an email, it's from a Facebook page, from the Urgency Facebook page. I had said, what do you want me to talk about? And somebody writes, Andrew writes, he's talking about the observer effect in science. He's asking, do we co-create physical reality? Is consciousness the factor that physicists keep leaving out when explaining the universe? And why? Is consciousness non-local? Do we co-create physical reality? See, okay, here's my all-encompassing answer. Yes, consciousness is the factor that physicists keep leaving out, but it's because they haven't gotten to it yet. If we're embedded in consciousness, that is to say, if all forms and formlessnesses are embedded in a formless awareness, we are what formless awareness looks like when it is imagining us. Then, how is science going to grapple that? They're going to tiptoe toward it as they go deeper and deeper, into the subatomic world, and then they bump up against particles that it looks as though we're influencing as observers simply by observing them. That is the observer effect. Although, interestingly, if you look on Wiki, the way it's written there, it's treated as though the instrument used to observe these particles is what's affecting them, not the observer, which is a sly piece of nonsense. It's a sleight of hand. It's not as though there's an instrument touching these, affecting them. And if you look at what any scientist has actually said, they're saying the observer. They're not saying the instrument is affecting the observation. The observer is affecting the behavior of particles. And in my book Urgency, I'd gone further and said eventually they're going to come up against that they're creating these things. Because you can't see nothing. You can't see formless consciousness. So once you've dug through the ground into nothingness, you're going to see something, and that something is going to be your expectation. So does that mean that we create our own physical reality? No. Who is the we that we're talking about? Because essentially, I started off by saying everything is embedded in formless awareness, consciousness. So we are that larger perspective, and we actually have the ability to see from that point of view. That's a big quote-unquote enlightenment experience, right? So do we? Well, no, we don't, because we're not real. I mean, we're not real in that sense that you've heard gurus a million times say, everything's an illusion. Well, everything is a necessary illusion. It's going to exist. It does exist. Knock on wood, because you can. So, yes, it's an illusion. There's a higher truth or a fuller sense of being, which is us, formless awareness, being. And in being all things, being us, being this crap behind me, being all things. So that being, that sense of self is that impersonal self, let's call it, spirit with capital S. That is I don't even want to say creating reality. It is reality. The nothingness, the formlessness, and forms things. This is an interweaving play. Sorry, I watched this documentary just now on Paul Lowe, the New Age bullshitter, and he doesn't blink. He looks right at the camera, and he does all of these great little hand moves. Like this one was one, I think, which I'm not sure what it meant. But anyway, and he just says nothing. He says nothing, and then he has an orgy, and then people pay him money, and it's like, fuck, man, I'm in the wrong business of making chocolate. What do I do for a living? Anyway, and you know what's creepy about that too is my friend Alan Steinfeld used to promote this guy, and I think I saw him speak once, and I was like, who's this homeless dude pretending to be enlightened? And he swears by Paul Lowe, and he, sure enough, ends up in this movie, thankfully with his clothes on, because that would be gross. No offense, Alan. Anyway, I digress. Well, maybe I should not digress. Maybe I'll stay with it, because Paul Lowe gets to the question of the self. And this is, I look at this stuff and it bothers me, because whenever we talk about ego and we talk about the self, we talk about it as if it's something that's not us, the ego. It's you. You are the ego. You're it. I am it. We are it. There is no you that has to do fucking ego work. That's just nonsense. You can't divorce yourself from yourself to work on yourself. Unless you're schizophrenic, in which case all bets are off. So what he and others like him do with this, do we create our reality, the secret horse shit, is they ego fortify. They double down on the ego while pretending that you're letting go. You're stripping away literally your clothes and then your mental condition. And all of these adults in this room who have paid this money do this, and they're all damaged goods to begin with, or else they wouldn't be at this retreat, right? So you've got these damaged goods people who pay money to do this, and of course they're going to feel something. Of course, when you strip naked, literally, in a room full of strangers, and are granting yourself permission to speak freely and to be as free as possible, you're going to feel pretty fucking good. And when you're not, of course, like when you have issues of monogamy, when you're like thinking about screwing some stranger and your wife is standing behind you, or your husband, there's Paul Lowe to yell at you and tell you you're wrong, you're the problem, you're a dummy, and monogamy is for apes, and you're using your caveman mind and blah, 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 because what better way for Paul Lowe to get laid, right? So it's... Yai. But okay, this goes to who's the observer, right? What's the self? Who is the dude observing, or dudette observing anything and influencing reality? Well, it's not this guy. It's not this mouthpiece here. It's not brain person that has anything to do with any of that stuff. So, I mean, the ultimate answer is formless awareness just is. In that just isness, in simply being, is being all things. And because that is our true nature, in the scientific realm, when we tap down into it, we are confronting that on some rudimentary level that, meditators perhaps confront on a different level. Going down the list of, techniques we use. But me, the ego self, no, not controlling anything. Barely in control of my own life, which is why I now pay Paul Lowe to have sex with a room full of strangers. Anyway, I hope this has answered nothing. You're welcome.